Support for Soccer Today is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Man's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code SOCCERTODAY at manscaped.com.
Ya lo hace, pierna derecha, directo al arco, golazo, golazo,
The world of football with a soccer perspective. This is Soccer Today with Duane Mullins and Kevin Laramie, live on the Sports Podcasting Network.
Good day, good night. Welcome to Soccer Today for Wednesday, June 8th, 2022. Please subscribe to the YouTube page and click on the notification bell so you're made aware of whenever we upload a brand new show. I'm Kevin Laramie, and as always, I'm joined by Duane Rollins. Duane, how's it going today?
It's pretty good, nice rainy Wednesday here in Toronto. It's gonna be a good weekend. So I just looked at the weather report. It's supposed to rain for about a month straight. Hey.
So enjoy the day while you can. Today on the show, we will talk about Prairieland Living Sky Sports and Saskatoon in the Canadian Premier League unveiling yesterday the probable renderings of the eventual stadium. We'll talk about that project, the likelihood of seeing that stadium being built, and the other projects in the Canadian Premier League. We'll talk about that in the second half of today's show. Duane has some information on that, so we will spend some time talking about Living Sky Sports, Saskatoon, and the Saskatoon project. Also, Windsor and Simon Fraser Valley we will talk about later on the show. But to start the show today, Duane, will continue on the same, storyline as we were over the last few days. The Canadian men's national team and Canada Soccer are not only back training, but they will play on Thursday. Here is the latest press release from Canada Soccer yesterday. Canada Soccer and the men's national team players who returned to training on Monday confirmed that they look forward to facing Curaçao in CONCACAF Nations League. Canada Soccer and the men's national team players are excited to see their fans this Thursday, June 9th, at BC Place in Vancouver. Duane, the game is on.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. I mean, we talked about this yesterday, that the sanctions that may have came out of not playing this game were significant to the point that it would have been very counterproductive for the players to continue this protest that they were going for. We'll talk in a bit about what this means in terms of what was accomplished, what wasn't accomplished, what was lost, what was gained in a bit. But in terms of this game happening against Curaçao, it's an important game, and it's important that it's happening. And look, quickly on the field stuff, I know a lot of people in Vancouver are pretty frustrated with the ticket prices, and there wasn't a lot of big movement for this game to begin with, and they've offered a 70% off code to try and fill the place out, which is
and a 2-for-1, exactly, and a 2-for-1, and some people paid $100 of tickets to go to that game months ago, and now they're finding themselves that their neighbors could pay $30 to have like 4 tickets. I'm exaggerating, but it's to illustrate the point. Yeah, there's some groan outside of just the fiasco of this week.
Yeah, and I get all of that, and I hope that the CSA does something for the people who bought the full price tickets. That does seem fair. But what I would say is this: is the Curaçao game is going to be much better than you think. This is a team that almost qualified for the final round of the qualify for the final the 8. They were the 9th team basically. So and they are probably better than Honduras now. So look. It's not a bad matchup just because it's a tiny island. If you're not familiar with this, if you're new, they draw from the Dutch. They're a Dutch colony, so they're able to draw people that were born in Holland. So they are better than you would think. So it's not as good as Iran would have been, but it is a decent test for them, and it is an opportunity to go and watch a game. So hopefully we can put that behind us and enjoy our game Thursday.
And there is FIFA points rankings that are available, FIFA ranking points that will be available during this game, Duane, because it is an official matchup. It is a competitive game. It's not a friendly. When we talk about the CONCACAF Nations League, it is a real game with some ranking points in play that would help Canada for the next cycles. Even though Canada's probably going to host, it's still good for the ranking, the FIFA men's rankings, and all. But that Curaçao game will be fun. Let's look now, Duane, at all the difference in the latest news on the Canadian men's national team front. I thought it was really interesting. Here is a couple of points that I want to talk about. So we've talked about Thursday's game that is on. Since Monday, I think we were one of the first ones to talk about this issue, but it has now been resolved. The players have hired legal representation. I think what happened this weekend and the amount of public relations mistakes that were done in the actual press releases by the Canadian men's national team players, and probably advice from other players around the world, they have finally got representation, legal representation, negotiating in their name. They have also launched a social media presence at the same time. There is a Canadian players Twitter account representing the Canadian men's national team players, hopefully the women's too, but this is the latest on this story.
Yeah, I do believe the women have their own account already, so that's all that already out there. Yeah, look, I mean, it's great they hired a lawyer. They should have had one before they started this, in my opinion. But I understand that there was a lot of frustration that boiled up, and sometimes, I mean, I've been guilty of this in my own life. Sometimes you make impulsive choices, and I think there was a bit of that happening. Now, look, they did get this on the public profile. This has been talked about. I was on the national news program in Canada yesterday on the CBC. I think 20 seconds of it was anyway, or not even that, but it's fine.
Duane talked for 5 hours with the producers and they kept 20 seconds. I'm exaggerating, but no, it's what it is.
Yeah, that's behind the curtain, guys. That's how that works. They do a 20-minute interview with you and they clip like 5 seconds, but it's fine. I'm happy to do it anytime, CBC guys. Look, it got on the agenda. It got on people talking about this. They've got their issues out in front and center. Now, the details, the devils are always in the details. And I think there's a lot more nuance, and shows like ours can get into the nuance, whereas more general shows are just broad strokes. And I think that they've won the broad strokes battle. Most natural Canadians are going to go, well, of course they should get money. They're the players. The administration shouldn't get all the money, which the breakdown the CSA offered that we reported yesterday, the 30-30 40 split would not necessarily make sense to a lot of non-hardcore fans out there. So they've got that on the agenda. Let's find a solution out there. This is too important to mess up. I would like to be thinking about what they're going to do in the September window. I mean, look, they're going to be in Europe. There's potential to play some big names over there because they're in the World Cup. They're one of the 32. England will pick the damn phone up if they call them that.
Yeah, well, they might not, because they'd be like, we don't want to play against you guys. We don't want to lose to Canada heading into a World Cup and have the entire country tell us that it's not going to come back home.
Yeah, well, no, but, they are playing the United States in their group. So there's some common sense there, England, if you're listening. I don't think they are. But if the England FA is watching today,
yeah,
you could match up. I think that'd be a good friendly. I haven't looked at their schedule for September, in fairness, so I don't know.
They're also playing Wales, if I'm not mistaken, in the same group. So Wales, England, USA. That's quite a group for the World Cup. It's going to be a fun November, Duane. For multiple reasons, I'm looking forward to November.
Yeah, Rams in that group too. So there you go.
Well, there you go. That would have been fun friendly.
Yeah. So look, there's stuff to do. I've also heard France is a possibility for a friendly there. We've heard Algeria, I've heard mentioned. Like, there's lots of big names being rumored around, but we'd like to talk about that stuff rather than this, and we have to resolve this first. That's the point.
Yeah, and now if they're training again, there will be the game on Thursday. There will be the game on the 13th also. Those won't be canceled. Now, let's look in perspective of the last few days here, Duane. When we look at what happened with the Canadian men's national team, from the missed training from Friday all the way to the fiasco on Sunday, to Monday's training, all the way to the press releases to today, do you think the goal of the men's national team players was achieved after this almost 5 days of public pressure?
No, I don't think they've achieved what they thought they might achieve. I think that they probably deep down felt that if they held out, that the CSA would capitulate to the demands that they offered. I'm not sure that they understood the numbers as well as they should have, which is where my criticism came to their approach. I think had they came in more prepared, had they hired legal representation a month before, that the proposal that they would have put on the table would have been more understood and would have been more workable than what they did. They were kind of just throwing numbers out, is what I take from this. And you get that too. If you're not, well versed in legalese, if you're not familiar with the numbers, and they don't have all the numbers yet either, what you're going to do is you're just going to throw this stuff out there and hope, make a noise. You're going to bang the table and try and get heard, and that's what they heard. So in that regard, they have been successful. But in terms of of where they might have thought they were going to get, I'm sure that there's still some frustration there. I would be very interested to see how they play against Carousel, a Carousel team that's going to be very motivated to get results to advance in the Nations League, which is a competition unto its own that a country like that would very much be interested in advancing in and certainly guaranteeing their spot in Group A, which is a big deal for them. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. But, in the same regard, is this Canadian team going to be extra motivated to prove something? Because, if they go out and lose to Carousel, then maybe some of their, that's going to sour people on them a little.
They're not going to get the 40% if they lose the Carousel. Let me tell you that straight, for sure. But knowing this crop of players and knowing certain mentality of these players, which they have a very, they show up for big occasions from this, I guess, Eustachio, Kamal Miller, Alistair Johnston. They have an aura. They have a little bit of a confidence. They have a chip on their shoulder attitude that make them play even better. So I wouldn't be surprised, Duane, if by but tomorrow night we have a score that looks more like a football score than we have a soccer score. Because I wouldn't be surprised if Canada goes out full guns blazing and puts their cleats literally on Curacao and put a marker down to show that, look, this is not distracting us. We can still play the beautiful game the way we want. Speaking of the beautiful game in the men's national team, you can follow the Two Solitudes Soccer Podcast at patreon.com/2solitudes. And here, Duane and I talk about the men's national team's road to Qatar. No holds barred. We're behind a paywall for that show. We can use all the might of our thoughts, opinions, copyright materials, great music, great show for you to catch on the Two Solitudes podcast. Patreon.com/2solitudes. Multiple tiers are available. Thank you for your support. But when we look, Duane, at this issue before we take the break, I want to know one thing. Did Canada Soccer, over the last 3 days, able to rescue a bit of the public opinions? Because Sunday's night's press conference was a disaster from multiple points of view, from the performance of the president to the words used to the confrontational aspect of this press conference. Is the goodwill eroded for the national team side on the Canada Soccer wide? And is this salvageable? Is the public relation and the perception of the federation in the public relations tainted? Is it salvageable? What is your take?
I don't actually think that the reputation of the CSA moved very much one way or the other based on this, because those that are tuned in and inclined to be negative towards the CSA weren't ever going to become positive to it. It's just ingrained in their soul. It doesn't matter what the CSA does, they're going to be negative towards it. I've seen that even when the CSA has done things that are decent. I think that although there would be a lot of sympathy and empathy towards the players, I'm not sure people that are more casually involved really are going to think about it that hard unless this drags on. That press conference, what it did do and where it did negatively affect the CSA a little bit is how certain people in the media saw that. There were some big names at that press conference. Bruce Arthur, for instance, from the which Bruce Arthur right for now, the Star, I believe, one of them. Anyways, a fairly well-known Canadian journalist. He was there and he wrote a column that was pretty scathing of them. And that is not ideal when you're trying to lead into a World Cup and you have people that will likely be writing about it and talking about it, and perhaps even in Qatar, who maybe don't have a great view of you now. But, we can debate to the cows come home whether it matters what reporters or columnists think about you. But, that's not a great rep there. But in terms of what they need to happen here and whether this has hurt the leadership, I guess is where we're going with this ultimately. I mean, I've talked to people with inside Canadian soccer, and there are some knives out. There's no doubt. There is some frustration there. I haven't heard anyone outright say that they should step down, but I have heard people talk in terms of maybe perhaps they should reflect on where things are and do the best thing for the program. I have had a couple people that are close to it suggest that they would be surprised if the leadership structure lasts beyond the year. It's going to be there's going to be some decisions that need to be made. And, if Nick Bontis continues on as president of CSA, and I'm in no way suggesting he should. It's just if he does or doesn't, that decision needs to happen now because we have a World Cup to prepare for, and we can't be distracted with this in November. Something has to get resolved. I don't know whether there's enough public pressure out there to force things or not, or honestly, because I don't view that the players' position here is completely without fault either, whether this is a fatal thing. The Iran game is a different discussion, and when you combine the two, that makes for a more complicated conversation when it comes to leadership.
Well, that's true. And we'll be fully transparent here. We do have acquaintances, colleagues, and former collaborators on all sides here. So I know personal players, and I know other people on the other divide too, from multiple people in Canada Soccer to other places. So it's true. It's something that has to be looked into, not a silo, but maybe as an overall. There's also great things that happened over the last year in Canada Soccer, and I don't think this weekend should negate that. But then you add the Iran, I guess the game cancellation and the political reason behind that, and maybe the disregarding of the political reason to focus on the sporting reason with forgetting about the other one. So there's that aspect. That was a mistake. There's a couple mistakes that's been done recently. And yeah, maybe a look at what needs to be done for the benefit of the association. Is the structure proper? Will the next Secretary General be some maybe new blood influx into this association heading into the busiest period of their history? It's not a one cup. It's not a one World Cup. It's 2022 mixed with 2026 with the Olympic Games in the middle, with the women trying to reclaim their title, to regain their title, to conserve their title. So we're looking at, I would say, very important couple of years for Canada Soccer, and we'll know now what needs to be done, and hopefully things can settle down this year and we actually enjoy Qatar on November. Now let's talk about our sponsor today, Manscaped. 20% off, free shipping, code soccer today at manscaped.com. Over the last few days, I've been talking about Manscaped. I've been trying the products, and in the performance package that they launched a few months ago, you also get the anti-chafing boxers, which I don't think I've talked about enough. Very useful. If you are like me, who walk a lot, play soccer a lot, anti-chafing boxers are really helpful for your thighs. My favorite thing from yesterday's show, the crop preserver. This is useful. It makes everything smell nice and fresh and stays like it. I suggest you get the performance package because you obviously get the weed whacker, which is for your nose, your hair. And I was talking about yesterday, Duane, I'm getting close to 40. And at 40 years old, that's what my dad said. At 40 years old, your hair are scared and they go back in and they come out from your nose and your ears. Weed whacker it is. And of course, the crop reviver, a little toner for your personal area that makes everything revivable and revived and alive and feel great. And of course, the Lawnmower 4.0 that gets the job done. It has a ceramic protection thingy. It's a great technology that Manscaped came with that actually help you with not cutting yourself, not nicking yourself. It is waterproof. You can use it in the shower, and you can also use it to make sure that you don't injure yourself. I've heard a lot of bad people, or at least bad injury stories with other products, but this won't happen with Manscaped. And of course, you can get that at manscaped.com, 20% off, free shipping worldwide. That's 20% off and free shipping worldwide with code soccer today at manscaped.com. Once again, 20% off, free shipping, soccer today at manscaped.com. We'll be right back after this short break.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at SoccerTodaySPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network.
And we're back on Soccer Today. Duane, we've talked about the two Solitudes podcast a few times this week. We're going to record the next episode tomorrow. We're going to have some fun looking at a couple of good topics. We'll, of course, come back on what happened over the last few days. And if you want to make sure you don't miss that show, you can find it at patreon.com/2solitudes. And it's time for the shout-outs. Shout out to our patrons of the shout-out tier. You see him here. That's a $5 tier. Thank you for your support, gentlemen, and ladies also. and you can have the super shout out tier at $10. And of course, the Two Solitudes podcast is available for every tier on our Patreon page at patreon.com/2Solitudes. Duane, yesterday it was a press conference, an unveiling of stadium. We like drawings, we like renderings. Here are the renderings of the future Prairieland Soccer Stadium, courtesy of Living Sky Sports and the Canadian Premier League. Here is what we're hoping to see in Saskatoon over the next few years. Beautiful stadium rendering, pretty big, would be one of the biggest ones in the CanPL. It would be close to the water, and you would also have, as you can see here, the curvature of there. This is where the whole horse racing track and everything was. So it's using the established architecture and making it different, using it to have not a bigger footprint, so it won't take too much space on the harbor front. Here you can see what the stands would look like. Similar stands in West Hill Stadium, Starlight Stadium have, but a bit bigger, a bit more. 3 full stands. One side would be empty, but it would be the side that is close to the water so that people can have a beautiful view just like this of the harbor front, of the beautiful fountains, of the lights. Evenings in Saskatoon are about to get a whole lot better because they're about to get fun. The question is, and that's where I want to ask you, is this is great. Renderings are great. Announcement of a future project in the city is great. Announcing an exclusive rights to a company like Living Sky Sports is great. My question is there more smoke than fire? And are all those renderings and the noise coming from Saskatoon there to get the public hyped, or there to get the municipal politicians behind the project?
Well, yeah, the short answer to that is yes. Look, renderings without a concrete agreement in place are pretty pictures and nothing more. Let's be blunt. And I'm not trying to crap on the Saskatoon deal. I want this team to happen. I lived in Saskatchewan for a year. I have a soft spot for the province. I would, have a soft spot for this team if it would happen. I know a lot of the guys out there. I've known them for years through the Voyageur circles, the Saskatoon boys. And they've been great Canadian fans, and I hope they get their team. I really do.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Jeff, by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah, and others. I'm frustrated by the continued sort of what I believe to be, I think they're using their enthusiasm to try and, push forward something that benefits the folks, the Living Sky folks financially in terms of a real estate player, which is the other part of this that they're not going to put up front and center. This is about control of this property more than it is about soccer, in my opinion. Now, look, it's not impossible that this will happen. There's a lot of political stuff that has to go forth, but without a plan, without a political agreement in place, those are pretty pictures. They're very pretty pictures. They are. That little bay there, I could even envision someone in a kayak watching the game. I don't know how much the flow is. Maybe that doesn't work. But
I don't know how much of the game you will see on your kayak when you're sea level and the stadium is same. But it's a great story. It makes a great Instagram picture for sure.
Yeah, it's all with Graham. It's all with Graham. No, it looks great. And look, Saskatoon, as I said, I lived in Saskatchewan for a year. Saskatoon was about 4 hours away because everything is 4 hours away when you live in Saskatchewan. And if you varied that, that's true.
Oh no, we're out of milk. Let's go to the grocery store. All right, it's 4 hours away.
Yeah. If it was after 6 o'clock, the closest grocery store was about an hour and a half away. But anyway, look, it would be a good market. If you don't know Saskatoon proper, it's a funky little town. It's got like an art scene. It's a university town, a lot of good music there. I had a good time in Saskatoon when I was there. It's a fun place, and I think this would be very successful there. So there's no disrespect at all for this city. In fact, I think it would be a great market for the CanPL. I think those type of markets are ideal in many ways. The Halifaxes, the Victorias, the Saskatoons, and others. And maybe we'll talk about Windsor in a minute. And I think those are perfect markets. The bigger the market, the harder it is to sell this league, I think.
So just to go back on Saskatoon, Duane, do you think the project will come to fruition before the other ones? Because right now there's 3 projects, one confirmed and happening and starting to play next year in 2023. That's 2023 Vancouver CPL. It will be in the Fraser Valley region, and that is happening next year. Now the 2 projects, or the 2 exclusive negotiating right for a team in cities, are Saskatoon, which is Living Sky Sports, of course, helmed by Alan Simpson. And then you have the former commissioner of the Canadian Premier League that hasn't been replaced yet. Let's not forget that part. Commissioner David Clanacan, who is helming the potential project in Windsor. And according to multiple sources, that project might be further in the development than actually Saskatoon is. Saskatoon is more for the stadium, but the team itself and the plan for that might be further along the way in Windsor. But those are the potential project for the CanPL. We know 2023 will be an expansion year for Fraser Valley, Vancouver, but when we look at the further down the road, it's going to be Windsor or Saskatoon. Those are the two projects that have been given exclusive negotiating rights by the league.
Do I think? No, I don't think this will happen before. Certainly not before Fraser Valley. Obviously, which unless there's something that's unexpected happens in the next few months, and we hope not, then that one will be playing next year, as Kevin said. The Windsor project is interesting, and it's one that I had doubts with when they announced it because it was a very similar announcement to this. However, from talking to people close to the situation since then, what I've been told is that one is much further along when they announced the exclusive bargaining and gave Clanahan the rights to be part of that project, the former commissioner, David Clanahan. So that one, I believe, might be a 25 or 24 project. This one in Saskatoon, I think you're looking at 25 or 26 before this is possible, to be honest with you. There's a lot of work that has to get done just to even get these approvals. And further to that, I've been told there's some legal hurdles that might have to be crossed before this can even begin to take place, based on the fact that there used to be two groups down there that were working on this. You may be familiar with this, the summer soccer thing.
The Saskatchewan Summer Series, as they were branded. This was a few years ago. It lasted for 2 summers for sure, maybe 3, but I remember 2 summers for sure, when there was a couple games played and organized. This was a testing the waters for a potential project. This was a different ownership group, and Living Sky Sports and Alan Simpson are a different group that basically were able to get something else in front of the other group.
Yeah, and look, I can't go too much into detail on that, but what I will say is that I that is not completely resolved. That conflict that exists there, and there was a conflict there. There's some bad feelings that exist there, which does not help with the political situation.
Yeah, it was supposed to happen one way, and then some of the partners of that went away and did their own thing, and then you have what you see today. So there's a lot of things that happen that are not resolved, like Duane mentions.
Yeah, this is not particularly close, is the bottom line. And it will be dead in the water if the stadium project doesn't get accepted. And there's still some political pressures there. People in Saskatoon and Saskatchewan will have a much better handle of this, but basically it's a priorities thing. Like, Saskatoon's not a huge city, so they have to prioritize what their builds are, what's important. They're trying to get a few major projects sort of are all in the air right now. And this is just one of them.
I think one of the opposing is because they're trying to build affordable housing, which is very topical in today's world, and not at the same place. But there's a lot of different, I guess, agendas battling for public money.
Yeah, and there is a Aboriginal issue involved in this, because the horse racing track had a lot of Aboriginal support and ownership involved in that. A lot of people worked in that from that community were to support the matters to that community. So there was a bit of that. And if, having lived in Saskatchewan, I can say this, that is always something that needs to be considered. It should be considered anywhere, but it's particularly front and center. It's pertinent out there, right? So there's a lot of hurdles here. There's a lot of balls in the air. Again, we're a soccer show. To take this back to the soccer, I think this would be a brilliant place for a team. I think this would be a successful team. I want this to happen. I get frustrated when dog and pony shows are put out there, which I feel there's a bit of that happening here. Speak truth, at least my version of it anyway. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think this is the theme of the week. Media being used for more than just reporting stuff. From the Canadian men's national team to showing renderings, are not always there just to show things, and not always there just to say news. There's behind the scenes reasons why things are happening, and the timing, and it's time to figure these out, and always look at timing and, of course, who benefits from things when it comes down to making an opinion. But we do hope for the best, and I do hope, regardless, that a team comes to fruition in Saskatoon very shortly.
Yeah, 100%. And we did look. I want this league to get up to 10, 12 teams. I would like to see this league be in 24 places and have 2 divisions. I mean, all we want these dreams, but it's hard. Ownership is the problem. We had a pandemic. you mentioned the Saskatchewan Summer Soccer Series. That basically got waylaid by the pandemic, like many things did. And there's a lot of people out there. Our friend Steven Sandor put a tweet out that got some traction yesterday, sort of suggesting that the league is failing because it's not getting the traction. I think, with all due respect to Steven, he's a bit skewed because he's in Edmonton. I mean, I had an Edmonton fan just texted at us or messaged at us a minute ago asking us when Edmonton was getting a CanPL team. That's funny. He's an Edmonton fan. He can make the
joke. That's funny. They have one. That's a short answer.
Yeah, look, I think the league, as much as we sometimes criticize it, deserves a lot of credit for getting through the pandemic. The Island Games were not without fault and not without challenges, but they got off. I think the bubble in Winnipeg was less successful, and perhaps they would have been better off waiting another couple months rather than rushing it then. And but you can understand that this is a league that is started from scratch.
Sorry, I was going to say, eventually we'll have to move on from there too and drop those excuses. The Island Games is 2 years ago, and it's more than a year ago than what happened in Winnipeg. So for the future, for going forward, I think the past it happened, but it was actually different leadership too. And the CanPL from Director of Communications, who's the now Vice President, Director of Communications, is Laura Armstrong, formerly of Toronto Star. She used to cover the Blue Jays and, of course, TFC for the Toronto Star, amongst other things. She's now Director of Communication for the CPL. There's still research for a new commissioner. There's going to be some new blood into the CanPL. So, yes, there was a lot of mistakes, but at least they're learning going forward, and hopefully we get a new stadium in the Prairies.
Yeah, real quick on the commissioner. I was told that they are within 6 weeks of making an announcement there, and that they've shortlisted it to 2 candidates at this point. I was not told.
It's not me for sure. I can tell you that I'm not shortlisted.
Yeah,
which is good.
My source refused to tell me who the candidates were, so I can't give you any more than that. But they assured me that I would be very excited when I heard one of the names. So take that for what it's worth.
So who's not working? Who's a Canadian soccer name who's not working somewhere right now? Who would want to take this?
I kind of got the vibe that it might not have been a Canadian, that it might have been someone from world football that was coming in. That's kind of the vibe I was getting, and I thought it might have been an Italian even, was sort of where I came from that. At any rate.
Oh, yeah, that could be the case. We'll see.
But that's speculation, to be clear, because they didn't give me a name, but I was basing on a few things.
Yeah, that is pure speculation. And on that note, we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for joining us on this early edition of the Soccer Today. You can find our show available everywhere you find your favorite podcast. That's at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spreaker, on our website, sportspodcastnetwork.com, and soon we'll have more on our website. I'm starting a written series called Soccer by the Numbers over the next few weeks. If folks don't know, I'm a sports statistician, soccer statistician outside of this show. I work for broadcast of the CF Montreal, and I've been deep into the world of numbers and soccer stats over the last year and a half. And there's a lot of things I want to talk about, and I'm going to do it on a written form. So make sure you visit our website, sportspodcastnetwork.com, pretty often. Two Solitudes podcast at patreon.com/2solitudes. Another plug, if you permit, if you are a content creator and you need help with design, advice, tips, and tricks, I've more than a decade experience here in my company and my colleagues at Spin Media Digital Solutions. We will be really happy to give you a hand and bring your content to a new level, from podcasts, consultancy. If you have a podcast, you want to know what I think about your show, maybe have a conversation to how you bring your show to the next level, we can talk about that. And you can join my website and contact me at spinmediadigitalsolutions@gmail.com. And of course, before we say goodbye, manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping with the code SOCCERTODAY at checkout. That is 20% off, free shipping at Soccer Today when you go to manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tool for the job with Manscaped. On that note, for Duane Rollins, I'm Kev Laramie, and until tomorrow, we wish you a great soccer.
You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.